Okay, so Godzilla Minus One.
Yeah,
Is it as good as all of our compatriots on the YouTubes are saying?
that is the question.
Yeah.
I'd like to begin my answer to that question by saying I don't give a fuck about Godzilla movies.
Yeah.
Godzilla Minus One.
That being said, this is probably the best Godzilla movie I've ever seen.
I would probably agree with that. I've seen quite a few Godzilla movies, but I'm in no means a fan of the series. But I know enough to get the gist of how a Godzilla movie is. And I'm talking about the Japanese movies.
Not the
US
American.
ones. Yeah.
It's not my favorite Godzilla movie because of Godzilla. It's my favorite Godzilla movie because of the story.
Yes.
And the execution of a story this massive on a $15 million budget.
That's the most impressive thing.
Absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
What they did with the budget they had.
Hollywood should be embarrassed from this movie, because this movie just shows you what you can do with a limited budget and a little ingenuity and a good script.
A lot of ingenuity
Yeah.
and a good script. You're shooting a period piece. A post-war Tokyo, and there's like a giant skyscraper monster in it. Any studio in Hollywood would have looked at that and been like, okay, that'll cover maybe like a couple actors, a couple of our leads, that'll cover their salaries. It's like, fuck off.
Yeah, just the bloat that we have over here, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
This movie does laps around any of the past, I don't know, 10 Marvel movies.
What?
Now, I don't know what went into like promotional.
Sure.
You know, let's just say production budget was 15 million. The Marvel's production budget was like 275 to 300 million. You can make 20 of these movies for the price of one The Marvels.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And when you watch the Marvels, you hear how much it costs, $275 million. I'm like, where the fuck did that money go on the screen? You can't
It
tell.
didn't go on screen.
Yeah, sure.
That's the problem.
Right. This movie, though, every single penny, you can see it
now,
for yourself.
give that filmmaker $275 million.
See what that dude does.
He'll make 10 movies, is what he'll do.
Yeah.
And they'll all be great.
Yeah.
Where this movie shines is the fact that it's a fantastically written human drama.
Yeah.
A post-war Japan drama that just happens to feature a giant monster in it.
That's what I thought was the most interesting aspect of it. I wasn't sure like how I was going to feel about it being post-war Japanese.
Because there's a few ways they could have gone with that.
Well, to me it's like, okay, you're remaking the original Godzilla then? And I guess it sort of is that, but it's a lot more.
Well, okay, like the whole thing with Godzilla is that he's basically a metaphor for atomic energy and it being, you know, they didn't really focus on that at all.
No.
In this. Like, it's not even, like, you get a very small scene where, like, you see, like, the Bikini Atoll test, like, create him.
But that's it. It's still, there's no, like, you know, anti-war atomic subtext in there.
It just focuses on, you know, this main character and who he's with, and them rebuilding from the devastating loss that they suffered.
That's honestly what I loved the most about the movie. What I've been thinking about a lot since I've seen it is just like how damaged the country was after the war, and then sort of like them picking up the pieces like as a collective, and then how it was affecting each one of the people on an individual level.
Yeah.
It was really compelling and interesting. In the film, you got our lead character who is supposed to be a kamikaze pilot.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to go off and do his final mission, and he kind of pusses out.
Big time.
And lands his plane on a base. The head technician, the plane technician on the base, calls bullshit on him because he said that there's something wrong with the plane, that's why he couldn't do it.
Bullshit.
Amidst all of this, they get attacked at night by a medium-sized Godzilla.
Well, okay, this is one of my critiques about the film, is that where the hell did that thing come from?
Yeah,
they just kind of established like, oh, there's like this little tiny Godzilla that already exists who's basically like...
It's like a throwaway line that establishes that he's sort of a legend around those
parts.
He's
kind of just like a big T-Rex or something.
Yeah.
And he's just there, and they're like, oh shit, and you know, and then he doesn't actually become Godzilla until he gets hit with the radiation later in the film.
Which just happens in like an exposition scene real quick.
Really quick, but he kind of just shows up on that island in the beginning, and you're like, oh, okay.
I almost didn't think it was Godzilla. I almost thought it was just a different monster or something in the film.
You're like, oh, I thought he gets created later, but what is this guy then? He's just some prehistoric creature.
Yeah.
But
during the encounter, the lead character has a chance to like get into his plane and uses like 50 caliber or whatever it is in the plane to shoot at Godzilla.
Creature,
But he again pushes out doing that, and like deaths happen because even though if he did do it, nothing probably would have happened.
He would have like annoyed it.
He would have annoyed it, and he would have gotten killed. So I understand why he didn't do it.
Yeah, he was like shitting himself. It's like you're looking at like something that shouldn't exist in front of you, and you're just like, holy shit! Like, okay, you kind of get where he's coming from.
But the fact of the matter is, people did die, and like the one of the other guys that lives kind of put the blame on him.
Right.
So you have this film that's about Japan after the war and like what they're going through, but then you also have this really good story about a guy who's being consumed with guilt.
Yeah, he's got a mix of like survivor's guilt, of not like following through on his duty.
Yeah.
Like when he comes back to Tokyo and he sees that his house is destroyed, his parents are dead, his neighbor sees him, and she gives him shit for not killing himself.
Yeah, exactly.
For following through on his duty as a kamikaze pilot.
Yeah.
And then from there, he picks up a couple strays, the main girl, and she's got the baby, so now he kind of like takes them in.
Right, they have like a little surrogate family.
Yeah, and they kind of create this little
family
makeshift family unit because they're all kind of picking up the pieces, and it works really well.
It does.
Like the first like half an hour of the movie just focuses on this, and it really draws you in.
It does. Like the Godzilla stuff is almost an afterthought because the story was actually really good.
Yeah, and I remember like
as a historical piece.
Yeah,
it
thinking
worked.
like 40 minutes in, I'm thinking like, oh yeah, I almost forgot I'm watching a Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
Because I could just watch this for 2 hours.
Sure, yeah.
Like it was a good story. And then you see how he's like, okay, well, I gotta like get a job and everything. So he gets the job on the mine sweeping boat. And that's where you meet like the kind of the rest of the characters in the movie, like who become his friends and everything.
Who are all going through similar
they're all kind of like, they're all still figuring out how to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
And this character throughout the whole film, he's just suffering from the fact that like the war is still going for him. Like he can't get past it because he knows what he did. Like he could never repay that debt or like fulfill his duty. Like the war's over, but it's still living rent free in his mind there still. So
yes. So in addition to him going through what he's going through, Japan going through what Japan's going through. This huge monster just comes out of the sea and starts terrorizing all of them.
Shit up.
So I also miss making Godzilla be the villain of the movie,
Yeah.
Because in America, of course, like whenever you make it's got to be anti-heroes.
Yeah.
And Godzilla's no exception.
He's bad, but like, oh wait a minute, he's just misunderstood.
Now in this, he's not like evil necessarily, but he's like the shark in Jaws. He's just like the antagonist of the film. You've got Godzilla in the mix, and at the Japanese who are trying to rebuild, they all have to come together at the end to take him down.
Right, which they make a point of saying like, well, we can't rely on the government to do anything, so we kind of have to band together as like people, as just people of Japan, and fight this thing.
Yeah.
So something I was glad they didn't do, which was just shit all over the U.S.
No, they talk about the U.S. and other countries just as very matter of fact.
Yeah, okay, the war's over. They're off doing their thing with the Soviets now. They might get into another war with them, so we can't rely on them to help. We got to deal with this ourselves. And yeah, it becomes like a potential victory for Japan as a country, something that they can all rally behind and just get a sense of pride back.
Exactly.
In their country.
Which, man,
and it's so good.
It's good,
They build that up. They really make you feel like, this is what these people need. They talk about how the country for so long has been so like they don't value life the way that the West does, and that they need to change their mindset. Yeah, it's really good. They need to change their mindset.
Yeah.
And like with this kamikaze shit, we used to build planes without ejector seats, and now like we need to like focus on living.
Yeah, they talked about all the corner cutting that they did with everything, and that all these things that just didn't value your average Japanese citizen.
Yeah, and because of like this mindset, I was coming across some other YouTube videos about people saying like, oh, conservatives are like rallying behind this movie because it's got conservative ideal shit. It's like
they're really saying that?
Yeah.
I haven't read
my
anything,
god, dude.
so
what's her name? Fucking who's the chick? Who's the annoying fucking
Grace?
chick? Yeah, Grace, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
A number of conservatives have rallied behind Minus One as some kind of Godzilla-sized middle finger to Hollywood.
Dude, you should watch her video. It's like, no, that's not why we're rallying behind the fucking movie. And like whether like conservative or not, like it doesn't fucking matter. Like it's a good story.
Yeah, it's so
and
bizarre.
It has nothing
like,
to do with conservative values.
When a movie's good, just every normal person rallies behind it, and then it becomes like, a conservatives
are rallying behind this movie. Fuck off.
Exactly, fuck off. It's like, no, it's just a good movie.
Yeah, it's just written well, and it's just a good human drama about people dealing with grief.
But when things are written well, that's from a different era, okay?
Yeah.
We're get with the fucking times. You're not supposed to make things competent anymore.
It's so stupid.
You're just not supposed to tell a good story anymore.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Right. But they do a fantastic job of like building up this character's, his destiny, basically, his path. He thinks it's like, okay, well, I got to fulfill that destiny that I didn't because I was too much of a coward in the beginning. I didn't kamikaze my plane into a boat. So now he's like, well, I have to do that into Godzilla's mouth with a bomb and blow his head off, and you know, like seeing his struggle of like, this is what I have to do to fulfill that, but then it cuts against what he's being told by his friends, like, no, you got to choose life, man. Like, we can figure out how to do this without like kamikazing ourselves into Godzilla.
Right.
And it becomes this really good internal struggle of how he's going to deal with that.
It does, because he's got that sense of guilt for letting other people die, not being able to carry out his duty. And he's dealing with all that internal stuff, so he feels like he's got to do this like one last act of bravery to kind of make up for all of that. Right. But at the same time, he's got these friends around him, but he has this family now, and he doesn't realize that he has this family really.
And this is something that I thought was also like just very subtle but very good. Like in the beginning of the movie, when he's very focused on himself and, you know, call his actions selfish, where he doesn't want to die and kill himself, he doesn't really have anybody. Mm-hmm. He's selfish when he's got nobody, and then at the end when he's got the family, that's when he's selfless. Willing to kill himself to complete the mission. He arcs so well.
Yes.
And now how this arc concludes, you know, I would have been okay with him dying or living. Like they built it so well that he could have lived or died and it would have still completed his arc and it would have been great.
Yeah.
You know, but they also had other characters around him.
Yeah, this gets into the negative aspects of the film, the things that I didn't really like that much. All right, so sorry to cut you off.
No,
I think we're going to the same place.
Yeah.
At one point in the film, when Godzilla attacks, and him and his girl, like they're not together, but they kind of are.
Yeah.
But it's the girl that he meets in the rubble when he comes home.
Yeah.
They're out on the town. Godzilla attacks, and during that, she like saves him, and it seems like she sacrifices herself, and so
it was pretty clear she's not
dead.
She did not make it. But that was ridiculous.
Yes, but the movie fucking pusses out a la War of the Worlds. In that film, you think Tom Cruise's son dies, but then at the very end, they totally pussy out and they bring him back. It's such bullshit.
Yeah.
And that really annoyed me about that film. But they do the same thing here. And at the very end, you find out that she's just
survived. Like in a hospital somewhere with like a little scratch on her eye, and it's like, get fucked. Like,
get out of here.
That
bullshit.
That went too far.
It did.
Like we had already decided, because you know, especially like Asian films, like they tend to not pull punches with stuff like that.
Mostly Korean films, but yes,
definitely Korean films. But you know, depending on the country, whatever.
Sure.
But it happened in a way that I was okay with it. And I had accepted it.
Yes, exactly.
Like,
as the audience, you're already comfortable with the fact that she's gone.
Like, I didn't think like, oh, this is just a ruse. She's gonna come back. No, I was like, no, she's dead.
Yeah. Well, the way
it happens, she's dead.
Yes.
It's absurd that she survives what she does. You get the whole kind of third act where you get all the friends kind of coming together and they're fulfilling this like big mission to take Godzilla out.
Yeah.
And like it's just so like exposition heavy, where they get together and like they're going over the plan, and you know, it's fine. Like it's still good, but it kind of adds a little more cheese to it. But then you think like, okay, we're watching a Godzilla movie, so like the cheese is fine.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah,
it's fine.
Exactly.
But then there's like the stupid little things where they lure Godzilla out into the bay, and he's supposed to be like, they're going to sink him into this like 1,500 meter deep trench.
You heard the plan. The plan was to sink him in this trench. And so then, but then in the movie, you see him when he's like standing out there.
He's fucking walking.
And you're like,
wait a minute, because they show him swimming earlier, and it's just his head, like,
yeah.
And then they show him, and he's like waist level standing in the water, and it's like, what is he, like fucking treading like a madman under the water?
Well, he had to have, because then later on, when they do sink him,
in that same location,
him in
you see him
fucking void underneath him.
Yeah, it's like, wait,
so
he was just
doing?
standing there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That was I thought they were gonna like lure him out to sea much further, like swimming.
Yes.
And then they were gonna sink him, but like he's clearly standing.
Yeah.
That was kind of ridiculous.
Dumb.
Yeah.
That's borderline nitpick. But the thing with
that's
the
nitpick,
thing
but
with
you
the
know
chick
what?
was so dumb.
That was way worse.
And like, you know, you can also say the same thing about him at the end when he decides not to sacrifice himself.
Yeah.
But I bought that. That to me was fine.
No, it worked.
Yeah.
Like I would have been, you know, him sacrificing himself would have really like hammered home the arc, especially with, at that point you think the girl is dead. So the little kid that they were raising together would just be left with the neighbor, and it's like, well, that kind of sucks. Like, but him living also gave another little arc to the neighbor, who becomes like the aunt, where when he first comes home in the beginning, she's pissed at him and hits him for not killing himself. And then at the end, when he comes back alive, she's mad at him because he was going to kill himself.
Exactly, yeah.
So just that alone shows like it's the entire shift in the country, like where they were post-war and how the entire country like shifted a mindset that, you know, it took years, but you see how like their approach now to life and death like completely shifted just in that one character.
Yeah.
And then same with the mechanic.
Yeah, exactly. The mechanic who was on the island with him, and he's the one that basically put the blame on him, made him feel even more guilty than he already felt.
That guy hated him.
He hated his fucking guts. In fact, that's the reason why I think it was like a sadomasochist reason for getting him back to like help them, because the main character just felt so much guilt and like just anything that he can do to kind of keep himself feeling like that. So he brings in the guy that really hates him to help soup up the plane at the end for the final mission, and like the guy changes and like he ends up wanting the lead character to live.
Yeah.
And you see it in a flashback, and it's just really good. These are the things that I'm thinking about. Like I've thought about.
Yeah, they work.
After the past few days.
They work because they make you care about like these characters and the changes they go through, because it's good writing.
Yeah.
And then Godzilla's in the movie.
Right.
You know, it's like,
and all the Godzilla stuff is cool.
Oh yeah, it's
the effects
what
are
they
great.
did with the budget. Like when Godzilla shows up for the first time and they bring in the theme song, like I totally like laughed out loud because
it's goofy.
It's goofy.
Yeah.
But still, like it just shows that the team behind this film has an extreme love for this franchise.
Yes.
You can tell, like they're mega fans, and they did service to that. Yeah. And it's on screen. Like you could see, like that's why fans of Godzilla are in love with this movie right now.
Yeah, and you know,
and it also speaks to general audiences.
It does. The way Godzilla looked, but to be fair, it's almost like the man in the suit,
like a guy in a suit,
but
just really
like
well done,
a really well done version of that, a modern, updated version of that.
Because there's times he's walking and his arms are out, and he's just like, oh, it's like, okay, you could have made him look cooler.
So it looks a little stupid. I still think that the best design is in the 2014 America. That Godzilla to me looks great.
Yeah,
I love the way that looks because it's a mixture of the old, but. You know, just progressing it. This was like the old, just with like modern effects. You know, but it still worked. It still worked.
Yeah,
you know, it was awesome. That's not even a nitpick. Just a personal preference.
Yeah,
it looked amazing. All the Godzilla stuff was neat. Like they created really cool set pieces with him. I love the scene where. The mine sweeping scene,
dude, like the Jaws chase scene,
chasing them.
That was great. Like that really brought in, and that was before like they brought in like the old theme music too.
Yes.
So it was still like the serious score, and the thing's chasing them, and you're like, this is tense. This is really good.
And just his like head sticking
just
out of the water,
his head's coming
creepy,
out, like,
you know?
And then he's got, you know, he gets the thing in his mouth, and it almost reminded like the end of Jaws when he shoots the thing.
Yeah, I'm also a sucker for like man versus nature movies where like a group of guys got to get together and take down a creature, an alien, whatever it is. And this one does it really well. It kind of reminded me of the scene in at the end when they execute their plan. Sort of It's completely different, but just some similarities. But I don't know if you've seen The Edge with Alec Baldwin.
Oh, yeah, and Anthony Hopkins.
Where they take down the bear at the end.
Yeah.
Great scene.
Yeah.
And like, they had that same sort of like
factor
you're
to it, you know what I mean? Yes, because
Yeah.
they spend so much time like diving into these characters, and so you understand them and where they're coming from, and and this movie did that really well. All right, so ranking wise, where are you sitting on this one?
When I walked out, my gut was like, oh, I'm gonna give this a 7 out of 10. But like I said, I've been thinking a lot about it, which is a sign of a good film. I've really been thinking a lot about the movie. I want to bump it up, but I don't know if it's gonna be a 7.5 or an 8. I'm gonna say it's an 8.
Wow.
I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10.
Is that the highest you've gone since we've started this? I don't think you've ever given anything an 8.
Bullshit. Really?
What? What have you given an 8?
I'm trying to think of all the good movies we've seen.
No. I went up to a 7.5.
Okay.
Because that chick living at the end, coming back, I thought was stupid. And like,
yeah,
I know, but it was a big thing for me.
You're actually right. You're actually right. I don't want to copy you, but but I don't know. Maybe I should revise.
No, stick with the 8, man. You liked it. It's like you said, it's thought provoking, and I revised up
about
too.
It nonstop. Like
I
really
revised
have.
up as well.
The themes really resonated with me. Like I'm
just not like I'm at a 7.5 because the movie's really good. It was actually like some of the Godzilla stuff that I just didn't give a shit about.
Yeah,
which,
same.
You know,
it was still good, but it I don't know, it didn't matter.
Yeah, like once they got into that final battle at the end there, I kind of just felt like some of it got a little like, okay, whatever.
No, hold on a second. There's one more thing that we do. Sorry to retroactively throw this in here, but one thing that we didn't talk about, okay?
Okay.
That kind of bothered me. Now that I'm thinking about it, this might justify me knocking it down a bit. The main character. Okay.
Well, you want to save this for the other scale, or
no? Because this no.
Okay.
We can talk about this now.
Yeah.
Now the main character, part of his shtick, obviously, is that he's dealing with cowardice.
Yeah.
So sure, like he's a coward.
Yeah.
But the guy was just a little too much of a pussy, like a whiny bitch.
Yeah.
There are scenes that he's in, like, there's nothing wrong with a dude crying in a movie, especially if it's an emotional scene, but he cries kind of like a bitch.
He had a whimpering cry.
Yes. He's
especially
like,
at the end.
I mean, he just feels like he's 5'1", super skinny, like just kind of a wiener. And you can make the argument that that's kind of what they were going for.
Yeah, but they took it a little too far. I agree. I agree.
Did.
Like, there's a moment at the end where he's just like...
That's exactly how he starts.
And you're like, okay, dude, like, you could cry a little better than that.
Dude.
I get that.
So, like...
that didn't really affect it too much for me, but...
Oh, it bothered me. But I'm still going to keep it at an 8, though, because that being said, he was a little bitch, but I still did understand what he's going through, and I wouldn't have been a fucking kamikaze. You'd have done the same shit.
Yeah.
You know? Oh, there's something wrong with my plane.
Right?
No,
and
I
then
don't know.
kill all the mechanics if they call you on it.
Yeah, there's something wrong with it. I don't know.
Yeah. And then, as far as the other agenda scale goes, there was nothing. This movie was so straightforward and just like a good drama, a good human drama. Like, they weren't injecting shit into this, especially because it's like, it's a Japanese film. Yeah. They're just like, no, we're just here to entertain you and tell a good story.
There's zero woke stuff.
No, nothing. And then the areas where you think it might come in, it just doesn't.
No.
Zero.
It felt like an old-fashioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, zero.
Yeah. Total recommendation. Yeah. Anyone can see it. So it's a good film.
Accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah.